Hi everyone, and welcome to Savvy Sips. My name is Savannah, and today's topic is wine basics, or wine 101 if you will. Let's dive in. First, let's answer the question of what is wine. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines wine as the alcoholic fermented juice of fresh grapes used as a beverage. Traditionally, wine has always been made with grapes. You might see bottles labeled as blackberry wine or peach wine. These are the alcoholic fermented juice of that fruit and is usually made in a similar style as grape wine. However, for this video and moving forward, we will focus on the magical grape. One joke I hear time and time again is all I know is red versus white. But do you? What makes a wine red or white? Let's find out. First, let's talk grapes. Wine grapes are different from table grapes, which are the ones that you buy at the store and eat. Wine grapes have bigger seeds, thicker skin, and are smaller than your common table grape. Like table grapes, you can have white wine grapes or red wine grapes. Some famous white wine grapes are Chardonnay, Riesling, and Sauvignon Blanc. However, the creation of red wine is not so cut and dry. The red tint of red wine comes from skin contact, not from the juice of the grape. After pressing the grape to extract the juice, the grape skins are added to the mixture. Now, there is more nuance to this, but essentially the grape juice and the grape skin hang out together, called skin contact, until the winemaker decides to remove the skins and you get red wine. A rosé is typically made similar to a red wine, with less skin contact to make the wine a lighter color. Now that we have the juice, we have to make it alcoholic, right? This process occurs because of these amazing little microorganisms called yeast. Essentially, the yeast eats the sugar from the grape juice and turns it into alcohol. Now, this step isn't necessarily occurring separately. For example, fermentation can be occurring at the same time as skin contact for a red wine. Wine producers can use the natural yeast that lives on the grape skin or add yeast from outside sources. With adding yeast, the winemaker can manipulate and control a variety of factors that go into winemaking, like amount of yeast, strain of yeast, how productive the yeast is, etc. Additionally, there are different types of fermentation containers, which includes large stainless steel tanks, concrete casks, and the ever-famous oak barrels. The beautiful thing about wine is that there are so many different methods to make wine that wines of the same varietal can taste completely different. I understand that this can be confusing for a beginner, but I hope that I can help you navigate through and eventually appreciate how beautiful it is that these different processes are able to create such a vast tasting profile in wine. Next, we're going to tackle common wine vernacular so that you can impress your friends with your fancy words. Additionally, I have chosen words that I think will contribute to your understanding of wine and help you choose a wine for your enjoyment. First is the idea of single varietals and blends. Single varietal simply means that the wine is made from one type of grape. For example, if you see labels like Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, or Chardonnay, these are wines made from that specific grape varietal. Legally, in the US, a wine has to be 75% that varietal to be labeled, and in the EU, it must be 85%. I am hoping to do a video about each of the grape varietals, so stay tuned for that. However, not every wine is made of one varietal. Wines can be a blend of two or more grape varieties. Usually for these wines, the label will simply say blend, cuvée, or focus more on location. Winemakers do this to add flavors called complexity to their wines. Next is the term vintage. Vintage simply means the year that the grapes were grown. If you see a year on your label, that's the vintage. Vintage is important because weather conditions that the grape experience can change the wine's taste profile. However, some wines will not have a vintage. If so, then these wines are considered non-vintage and are a blend of different vintages or different years. Winemakers will do this to make consistent tasting wines between bottles. A vintage or non-vintage does not necessarily determine quality. Usually, you will find vintages on your Chardonnays or Cabernets, but non-vintage for your sparkling or fermented wines. Location, location, location. The same is true for wine as well. Many aspects can affect the flavor of the wine besides the grape varietal, including weather, soil, and the landscape. All aspects of the natural environment that can affect a wine grape is called the terroir. If the same grape is grown at two different terroirs, the wines can taste completely different. Also, there are some grape varietals that will thrive in some terroirs better than others. Usually, the most flavorful reds are grown in warm weather, and whites are better in colder environments. However, there are always exceptions. Since location is so important in winemaking, there's a term for it. An appellation is a legally defined area where only the grapes grown in that area can claim its name. Originally, the idea of creating an appellation is for authentic purposes and to avoid fraud. One of the most famous appellations, at least in America, is Napa, California. If you were buying a wine labeled Napa, wouldn't you want it to actually be from Napa? In America, appellations are labeled as AVAs, or American Viticultural Areas, and are determined by the American Tax and Trade Bureau. An AVA does not always follow the same border as county borders, or share the same name as the counties that they cover. Here is a map showing all the AVAs in California's Napa Valley. As you can see, there are many AVAs within Napa County. Some countries do their appellations different than America. Most European countries rank their appellations, so now you don't only need to understand the appellation name, but also what rank they are. The French appellations start with Vin de France, then Vin de Pays, and then Appellation d'origine protégée, or Appellation d'origine contrôlée, also known as AOP or AOC. Vin de Pays are considered everyday table wines. AOP/AOC are known as the best wines and have the most strict rules to become this rank. For Italy, they also have 3 appellation classifications, which I'm going to list right here because I do not speak Italian, but if anyone would like to explain how to speak them in the comments or link a video, that would be very greatly appreciated. Like France, the lowest rung, IGT, are considered everyday table wines, while DOCG are considered the fancier, more well-respected wines. However, with Italy, this does not always hold up. Many people are familiar with the idea of Super Tuscans, which are wines from Tuscany that are usually classified as IGTs, but are very high-quality wines. Super Tuscans have definitely been a hotly debated topic in the wine world. This goes to show that there are always exceptions. Thank you for tuning in to my Wine 101 video. I know that there are many aspects when it comes to wine, but I hope I have given you the confidence to start learning the language. Happy sipping!